Encounters on the Hippie Trail, 1971, an elegy for Mrs. P. Most writing, when you boil it down, has its roots in autobiography. This book is no exception. The best way to give you an idea of what it's about, perhaps, is to start at the beginning. This is what I wrote as a cover blurb. It gives you a good sense of how it all started. Across the gloomy, empty dining room of the old Hotel Panorama, Kathmandu, an elderly woman sits alone. Her toast and marmalade might have been a clue as to her nationality, but convinced she was German, the callow Australian sitting 2 tables away greets her in what he assumes is her native tongue. She replies to his Guten Morgen in ringing home counties English, "Good morning, young man," following that revelation with an invitation to join her to take tea. Her name, which he hears imperfectly, is either Pritchett or Pritchard, but she quickly tells him that people usually address her as Mrs. P. She is, she explains, from Yorkshire and is almost halfway through her annual solo pilgrimage to India to buy a good supply of tea in Darjeeling. This year, 1971, she's decided to spend a couple of days exploring Kathmandu and surrounds on foot. The young Australian and his partner are on their way from Melbourne to the University of York. Fate in a bus crash sees the 3 Yorkshire-bound travellers unexpectedly sharing railway compartments, local buses and other public transport as they make their way towards Europe following the Hippie Trail. As they traverse countries such as Afghanistan and Iran, dangerous places then as now, Mrs. P relates harrowing, hair-raising, often hilarious accounts of her past adventures. This is the story of a brief, surprising companionship. The various adventures from this journey are recalled in what is essentially an account of an Australian grand tour. In the 18th and 19th centuries, it was common for people, especially English folk, to extend their knowledge of the world by visiting famous places on the continent. In the 1970s, young Australians made the decision not to fly to Europe, but rather to go cross-country, seeing much more than was possible from the tiny porthole window of an aircraft. In this new book, I am able to take you with me to exotic places, to the Taj Mahal and the Shalimar Gardens in Lahore. I can transport you on a public bus through the Khyber Pass, on trains and minibuses past the Hindu Kush and stately Mount Damavand, not far from the tomb of the poet Omar Khayyam in what was once Persia, and more often than not share with you stories told by the redoubtable Mrs. P. A mysterious death above the snow line in the Himalayas, her antics with a fish vendor on the shores of the Bosphorus, amorous encounters of an unusual sort vehemently rejected, and dinner with the Aga Khan. Such were the stories she shared. Rich pickings these, stored away in memory since 1971, they remain vivid and lively and unforgettable. Please share them with me.